introduce our next keynote speaker, a true pioneer in the field of human-computer interactions and global leader in augmented, virtual, and empathic computing. So Professor Mark Billinghurst is a professor at the College of Engineering and IT, Adelaide University, and also holds a position at the Auckland Bioengineering Institute, University of Auckland. He earns his PhD from the University of Washington in 2002, and since then, he has published over 900 papers on wearable computing, AR, VR, digital health, and mobile interfaces. Professor Billinghurst has worked with some of the world's most innovative organizations, such as British Telecom, Nokia, Google, and the MIT Medical Laboratory. He was previously the director of the HID Lab, New Zealand, at the University of Canterbury. His contributions have been recognized with the Career Award and also the Technical Achievement Award by the IEEE VR Visualization and Graphics Technical Committee, as well as the Career Impact Award by the IEEE International Symposium on Mixed and Augmented Reality. In 2022, he was inducted into the inaugural class of the IEEE VGTC VR Academy, and he is now a fellow of the IEEE as well. Today, Professor Billinghurst will speak on a topic that is both timely and vital. The topics that he's going to share with us is using empathic computing to address mental health issues. I think it's a very interesting topic, right? His talk will explore how emerging technologies can be designed not just to be intelligent. So we are very well known that intelligence is very important with AI, but to be emotionally aware. So it's about how to sense, to understand, and respond to human feelings in ways that support mental health and well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Professor Mark.
Thank you very much is this working okay? Good. Thank you very much for the introduction. It's a wonderful opportunity to be here in Hong Kong, and thank you for the invitation to come. So as I was introduced, my name is Mark Billinghurst. I work in two universities, in Adelaide University in Adelaide and also the University of Auckland in New Zealand. I had a question to start with. How many of you are using AI on a regular basis, like ChatGPT or Google Gemini? Great. And please leave your hands up. Please leave your hands up if you have also used AI to ask for some advice about relationship or health or personal matter. Still quite a few people. That's great. So, of course, we all know that there's many digital mental health tools available today around mindfulness, CBT, mood, telehealth, conversational agents. But there's a large recent growing trend of AI-powered solutions. And as you saw in the room here, almost all of us are using AI tools in one form or other. But in the US, about 20% of the youth use AI for chatbots for mental health, and this is growing. So in 2024, it was 13%, last year 20%, and projections are by 2030 over 50%. And already other countries have similar high percentages as well. So what I'm going to talk about today is how we can take what's happening and take it to the next level as well, away from just the basic tools we have currently. So here's one example of a tool. This is character.ai. Has anybody used this one? Nobody? Oh, nobody? Okay, one person. Thank you. So this is a website you can go to, and on this website, there are thousands and thousands of different chatbots. And in fact, there are thousands of psychology characters you can talk to. The first one you can see is being used in the last 3 years 213 million times. So extremely important. And this is just one of the psychology tools. You can literally, there are thousands of psychology tools, or you can go and talk to other people that are experts in architecture or engineering or other topics as well. So before I gave my talk, I went and asked for some advice. And this is what I asked. So I said, I'm feeling stressed. I have a big presentation and no time to write it. And then the psychologist gave me some advice. And then I won't show you the whole conversation, but you can see it gives you some feedback. And it's pretty good. It's, you know, instead of having to pay a psychologist or mental health professional hundreds of dollars an hour, I can go to character.ai and ask and get some feedback. But you can see this is very basic. There's no face. I'm not talking to it. I'm just typing, and the feedback is kind of generic. So there are some limitations with some of the tools we use today. There are, as I said to you before, there's no representation. It's difficult to share very rich communication cues if you're just using text. And you don't, of course, the computer doesn't recognize my emotions like a face-to-face person would be. And it doesn't personalize because it doesn't know me. And there are other risks as well. One of the big risks is lack of clinical guardrails. We've all heard of the terrible stories of people using ChatGPT or other tools, and in some cases have been led to commit suicide because the tools have been very helpful and have helped them learn how to commit suicide, which is terrible because of lack of guardrails. There's also an affirmation bias. AI wants to make you happy, so it'll tell you lies to make you feel happy, which may or may not be good. And of course, there's a big concern about data privacy. If when I'm talking to character.ai and telling it all my problems, I don't know where that information is being stored. Almost certainly not on my computer, on some computer somewhere else in the world, and I don't know who has access to that information. So there are many different problems. You could imagine in the future something like this. So here's a woman and she's asking for some advice, and this augmented reality character appears beside her, and it can talk to her like they're in the real world. And the character can also recognize it, saying, I'm sensing elevated stress levels. Let's practice a grounding technique. First, what are 5 things you can see? So from the heart rate sensor on her wrist and from other sensors on the glasses, they can detect some heart rate or EDA, and they can personalize the response as well. So this might be a very different way of interacting in the future with an AI agent or a conversational agent. But actually, it's not too far off. Let me show you a short video of a project we've been working on. And let's play this video here.
I'm Anna, and I'll be with you during your procedure today. May I have your name,
So
please?
this is a virtual character that pops over the real world.
Amanda.
And as the lady starts talking to her, the character is going to take her through
Amanda,
an
good.
exercise
Now, there are
to
2
help
options
reduce her
available
stress.
during your procedure: a
So
breathing activity or classical piano
he's
music.
asking her if she wants to
You
listen
can
to
practice
music
either one before
or
we
to do a
begin to see
breathing
what works for
activity.
you. You can change your mind at any time. Which would you like to practice first?
The music.
And so she's asked for music, and it'll start playing some music.
Alright,
very
I'll play
shortly.
10 seconds of a piece of classical piano music so you can decide if you want to listen to it during the procedure. I'm Anna,
Okay,
and I'll be with
So that's very simple. So this system runs on this pair of glasses. These are just a pair of small glasses that you can buy for a few $100s, and it plugs into your mobile phone device. And in this case, this is a project we're doing for gynecology, so it's not mental health, but the idea is you go to the gynecology office, they will give you some glasses that run off a small phone, and then while you're waiting, you can ask questions of the character, and even during the procedure, you can be having some breathing exercises or some other music or distraction from the procedure as well. So we have the small glasses that connect to the phone, an animated augmented reality character like you can see here, and we have a large language model powered conversation with some domain expertise as well that will be able to answer all your questions about gynecology. So that's what's available today, but it's still a little bit from the vision I showed before of having this life-size character that knows you and knows your senses. So I'm going to talk a little more about how you could make that happen. And so, first of all, I want to talk about the topic of empathic computing. So one of the basic needs that we have as people is being able to connect and communicate with other people. If you look back through thousands of years, you see a lot of technology advancement is all about communication, learning how to write, television, radio, the internet, the mobile phones we have today. In fact, Paulo Freire, the Brazilian philosopher, said that only through communication can human life hold meaning. So empathic computing is a new way of connecting and communicating with people. And in my opinion, there are three important trends happening right now in the communication space. One is improved content capture. So we're moving away from just looking at cameras on our desktops and sharing faces to sharing our places. People will put cameras on their heads, or they have smart glasses that will look out in the real world, or using mobile phones, and they can scan and make a model of the real world. So you can capture your experience and share that, not just your face. Secondly, we have increased network bandwidth. So when I first started doing computing 30 years ago, we had a dial-up modem, and it was a 56K baud modem. And now in my house, I have a fiber connection that's a gigabit, and I can stream huge amounts of data, including photorealistic characters and things like this. And the third thing, which is very important, is implicit understanding. So we can use AI and other tools to recognize behavior and emotion. You can see this picture here. It's a bit hard to see, but there's a picture of a bunch of people, and the computer's looking at the people and trying to estimate how old they are and what emotional state they have at the time. So these three areas, natural collaboration through high bandwidth, experience capture through the devices that can capture surrounding, and implicit understanding, they all overlap in this area that we can call empathic computing. And of course, we all know what empathy is. This is the famous quote by Alfred Adler that says empathy is being able to see with the eyes of another, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another. So the goal of empathic computing is to build systems that allow us to share what we're seeing, hearing, and feeling with other people, going beyond just video conferencing or phone calls, but really be able to understand deeply somebody else. But that same technology can be used at the heart of mental health systems as well. And that's because there's different key components to empathic computing. So first of all, understanding is really about emotion recognition. Experiencing is about being able to capture your content and surroundings. And sharing is about using communication cues. And so for emotion recognition, physiological sensing and AI are very useful tools for that. For the content or environment capture and experiencing, virtual reality is a great tool for that, because you're using virtual reality, you can put yourself into somebody else's surroundings. And then for sharing communication cues, being able to overlay information on the real world, augmented reality is useful for that. And I showed you an example of that already. So let me show you a couple of examples, and then I'll talk how this applies to mental health. So you could imagine if you're watching the Olympics on your TV, rather than just seeing the mountain bike competition going down the hill, or maybe the Winter Olympics, seeing the ski boarder going down the mountain, it would be much more exciting if you could feel like you were on the bike or on the skis at the same time. So if you could be inside the body of somebody else while they're having that experience, if you could feel their heart rate and see what they were seeing and hear what they're hearing, that would create a very deep connection. Now, that's very difficult to do in reality, but a few years ago, we duplicated or made that a mock-up of what that might be like. And what we had is we had two people, one person in virtual reality and playing a game, and that person had a special glove on their hand that could measure their heart rate. And then we had a second person that was also in virtual reality, but placed inside the first person's body. So now you're inside the other person's virtual body, and you can stand where they're standing and look around. And you could also, because you could feel their heart rate, that would be represented to you as well. So when we did that, we built two different environments, one that was catching butterflies, kind of calm, a very scary environment where you had to fight zombies, and it was very dark.
In
And
this
this is what
research, we
it looked
explore
like.
the effects of sharing physiological states of players in collaborative virtual reality gameplay. Our goal is to improve and enhance users'
This is the
empathy
zombie
among
scene, so it's quite
collaborators,
dark.
especially in a
You can
remote
see the
setting
heart rate
using
of the other
advanced
person
computer
here, and I can
interfaces.
hear the heart rate as well.
To support this study, we developed a collaborative VR framework which shares the player's position and heart rate to the observer in a virtual environment. The observers view the game from the player's position, but can rotate their head freely to look around. The player's heart rate is measured by a biometric glove. The measured heart rate is shared with the observer using both visual and audio cues. We developed 2 games based on this framework. The first game provides a calm and pleasing experience where the player catches butterflies while surrounded by nature. The second game presents a scary and stressful
Zombies, and you have to
situation
shoot
where
the
the player
zombies.
tries to survive zombie attacks. We conducted a study to learn the effects of displaying the player's heart rate to the observer. From the insights gathered in this study, we present a set of guidelines.
Okay, I'll fast forward a little bit. So we did a small study to see what if it really was helpful being able to share somebody else's heart rate, and we looked at different types of sharing heart rate. You know, you can have the icons. You could also feel the vibration from the controller, so you could feel like you're holding somebody's heart in their hand. And the basic outcome was that there was certainly a significant difference in heart rate between those two conditions, the calm and the zombie condition. But sharing that heart rate improved the positive effect to the other person. So you felt more connected to them. And it also created this subjective connection between the two collaborators. So that's a very simple example of an empathic computing system. Maybe a more relevant one is this one here. So you can imagine if you're in a counseling session and you're looking across the table at the other person, it might be helpful if you knew what mental or cognitive state they're in while you're talking to them. Sometimes counselors will, of course, look at their face and try and estimate if they're feeling stress or unhappy or whatever else. So we built a system that did something like that. So here's 2 people sitting across the table. One person is wearing a heart rate monitor, the second person wearing a VR device. And when he looks at her, he can see around her this aura that represents her emotional state using a arousal valence calculation. So I'll play the video, you can see. So they're playing a game together, and the game is a little bit difficult, so it has some cognitive load. And so as they're playing this game, they're trying to guess different card types. They take the EEG sensor, they use a neural network, and they map it onto an arousal valence taxonomy. And then you can see around the person different types of aura representations. And by showing that, you can see if the person is understanding what you're saying or what emotional state they're in. So that's 2 examples of simple empathic computing systems. I want to talk more about how that relates more to mental health now, because those weren't particularly mental health applications. And you can imagine, without much imagination, how you could apply that to mental health. Here's a few examples. You could build immersive experiences that change depending upon your own mental state. So if you went yesterday to the poster session and tried the demonstrations, there was some demonstrations showing VR environments designed for meditation or to make you feel calm. But in those environments, they didn't measure your heart rate or your emotional state, and they didn't change depending upon how you're really feeling. So you could imagine building a VR environment designed to provide that, but it adapts to your feeling right now. You could also build an empathic companion that helps provide support or advice. You could build a support agent that is in a real counseling session with you, maybe a therapy training tool where you could practice role playing as a therapist, and many other things as well. So I'll talk about these today. I don't have a lot of time, so I'll just skim through these and we'll have some time for questions. And I forgot to mention also at the beginning of my talk, if any of you are interested, I'm happy to share with you all of these slides. At the end of my talk, I'll give you my email address. Just email me and I'll send you all the slides with the videos as well. So you'll have all the content if I can't get through all of it. So first of all, context aware empathic VR. So this is what we've did a few years ago to build virtual environments and virtual characters that change depending upon your emotional state. So we measured people's EEG, EDA, and heart rate variability, and we then used some machine learning to map that to different emotional states. So this is the kind of high-level system. So you have a person who's wearing a variety of sensors, head-mount display with EEG, shimmer for measuring the EDA and PPG, and you do the data collection and you map that to an empathic appraisal. So you try and estimate how the person's feeling. And then based on that estimate, you generate some response, and that response goes back into the virtual reality experience and changes it in some way. Now, most of you will know that emotion isn't a black box. You know, if my heart rate goes up, it might be because I'm feeling scared, but it might also be because I'm feeling in love, and it's hard to tell just by measuring my heart rate. But if you know the VR, because we built a VR environment, we know where people are in the VR and what they're doing. We can then know the type of emotions they might feel, and then we can use that context to create a more accurate estimate of the emotions. And so we did that, and we built a virtual environment that had two elements. One was the environment itself, and you can see at the top here, these are scenes from the environment. And depending on your emotional state, we would change the colors of the scene. So you can see when people are happy, everything looks really bright and yellow and happy. And when people are feeling bored, it goes cold and blue, and stressed, it's kind of red and angry. So you've often probably heard the saying, when you're angry, you see red. Well, in this VR case, we can literally make that happen. And the second piece is that we have a character, this one here, and the character is trying to help you in the VR environment, and the character's behavior can also change depending upon your state as well. So let me show you a video of this working. In this case, the character is represented by this little disc here. We didn't have a virtual person, and this was a very simple task. People went into the virtual environment and they had to take photographs with a virtual camera, but they had a limited amount of time, and so there was some stress because of that, and then the character would give them advice to help them reduce or increase their stress. So
imagine being able to step into a virtual reality world that responds to your emotions and creates a truly personalized experience. That's exactly what context-aware empathic interactions can do.
Welcome to the virtual reality photography
So
contest.
this is the character here talking to you.
I will be your companion throughout this 5-minute journey. I will help you with navigating to the monuments, and don't forget to have fun.
And as you start going around,
Continue
then
walking straight.
the
Our
colors will
empathic
change a little bit.
companion will guide you through the experience, assisting you in navigating through the environment, managing your photos, and keeping track of time. With the agent's help, you will be able to search for monuments as points of interest spread across the 5-minute virtual photo walk experience.
You have 7 photos left.
And that's not all. Our companion monitors biosignals such as brainwaves, skin sweat responses, and cardiac responses integrated with the novel Galia VR head-mounted display. It uses biosignals and contextual information to predict your real-time emotional states and adjust the environment and its tone to create context-aware empathic interactions. As you move through the environment, the atmospheric colors and companion's tone will change to match your emotional state.
Impressive capture.
Okay, I'm going to go on.
have
It's a
8
bit of a long
photos.
video, but so you get the idea. We ran a small study and looked at 2-factor conditions. One condition was whether or not you had this empathic environment, EA. The second was whether or not you had an empathic companion. And then we had 4 conditions in that, and we looked at measuring your heart rate and EEG and EDA, and then also had many surveys that we looked at and measured some performance as well. And so here's some results. It's not important to remember these, but the basic idea was that building this empathic environment improved people's emotional state, and they felt when they had the empathic character that responded to them and changed their response depending on your emotional state, they felt more connection to the character as well. And also, we showed that we could use the physiological indicators to measure and respond to physiological engagement as well. So that's one example of how you can use empathic computing to create an environment that responds to people as well. And you could imagine, this is not a therapy environment, but you can imagine how these types of techniques will be brought into a therapy environment and perhaps make the therapy more effective. The second project I want to talk to is this project called Tokohoa, which is a project about building a digital companion. And this project, really the high-level goal was to use a watch and to mood sense from the physiological sensors in the watch, then to have a virtual digital agent that's always available. So if you felt you needed to talk to somebody, you talk to the agent, and then if needed, you could then join a remote therapy session as well. Now, the really important thing about this is that the agent wasn't supposed to provide therapy. It was supposed to act as a friend. So Tokohoa is the Maori for my friend. Just like if you get a bit sad, you might want to talk to one of your friends and get some feedback. But if at any point it became apparent that you needed a professional help, then the agent would recommend that you contact a professional. So that's unlike a lot of other therapeutic tools or mental health tools we see that try to provide that advice. In this case, it's just listening and being a friend. So let me give you an example of how it's supposed to work. So this is a persona, Ethan. He's a student. He works full-time, and he's studying part-time as well. He's getting stressed because he's having a hard time at work. He's not sleeping. He's spending too much time doom scrolling on his screen, and he wants to try and improve himself in some ways. So here's a video that kind of shows the concept of it working. And we were targeting young men. In New Zealand, young men have a significant higher prevalence of mental health, but 1 in 5 experience depression with young men. So here's Ethan doom scrolling. He's chatting with his friends.
Hey mate, noticed your stress levels are high. Wanna check in?
So the system knows when he's feeling stressed and it can pop up and take initiative and talk to him, and then he can chat with the system. You can also create your own goals and monitor your performance. So in his case, he wants to read or do some exercise. So you can, and then have the system help you stay on track with your personal goals. And so there's the goal tracker. And there's a live virtual character that you can talk to using voice. The character also uses the camera on the phone to look at your face and tries to estimate your emotional state from the face as well. And so there's really 2 types of monitoring going on. One is monitoring all the time, like a Fitbit for mental health. And the second is active monitoring when you're talking to the character, and it's in those conversational moments it tries to be monitoring as well. So that's the concept. We're not completely there yet. We built a prototype and we're in the middle of evaluation. I'll talk about that. So this is what the prototype looks like. We have the home screen here, which shows you your goals. The character's in the top right-hand corner. You can open the character, start talking to it. You can track your own emotional state, and you can also monitor that over long periods of time as well. And the key part of this is the active and passive emotion sensing. So using a watch, you can track people's emotional state and stress over time. But when they're talking to the character, the character can actively check in with you and ask you how you're feeling, and map and create a model of your own emotions based upon your physiological cues. So we started doing some testing with this prototype. We've done a few focus group sessions, and we're just in the process now of about to do a longitudinal study. In the first focus groups, we focused on these topics here around what people currently use in terms of technology, privacy and safety, the expectations of creating an AI companion, what type of features they would like. And when we did that, there's a lot of information on this slide here, but we found a couple of key points. One was that people were fairly skeptical about this being able to be a useful tool. Only 20% or 18% were positive about this. But if they did want to use it, they'd want to be represented this as a professional tool. People were worried about privacy and security, so 93% concerned about privacy and security. And then you can see the quotes here on the right. So, it's scary to know that all my thoughts are stored somewhere, and AI is not at the stage where you can be emotional with it yet. And human connection is the most important thing in mental health, which are all good things. So based upon that, we've created a set of design recommendations, and we've gone back and we're doing a second iteration of that tool now, and we're doing a longitudinal study starting in August. So these, in this case, in the focus group, people only got to see the video and interact with the tool for a short period of time. In the longitudinal study, people will use the app for several weeks and in a much more intensive manner. But perhaps the most important part of this, and my student Evan's at the back here. Hey, Evan, good to see you. This is his work. So one of the things we think is a gap in the mental health space is that there's not a lot of examples of AI agents being virtual supporters during a counseling or therapy session. And so in the Tokohara project, the idea is you build a relationship with this character, and then at certain points you may need to see a therapist. And if you do, the character comes with you to the therapy session and provides some support. So there's been some evidence that shows that having a supporter in a therapy session is very, very helpful, but there's been very little work done about how AI agents could be virtual supporters in those sessions. And Evan wrote this very nice paper, it's a bit blurry here, that talks about having a supporter. So I'm just going to summarize some of his work. So we want to understand how an AI agent could be a supporter in a mental health therapy session. So first of all, we spoke to 9 therapists and focused on current support problems, gave them a technology demonstration of what we built, asked about their expectations and concerns, and then we did a thematic analysis of that. And then from that, we found a couple of things. First of all, supporters have a number of important roles as comforters. They can provide information, they can be observers. They also have to be very good at listening and have good nonverbal skills. But there are some important relationship dynamics. You don't want the person in the therapy session to overstep their boundaries. And in most cases, the supporters in the therapy should be quiet and just let the therapist and the client work together, not jump in. And there's also some other factors that should be considered around designing virtual supporters, such as what type of interface they should have. So putting that in mind, we built a prototype. And so the prototype you interact with in 2 ways. First of all, just like the Tokohara app I showed you before, you have a daily interaction with this virtual character. You can reflect on your mood using mood journaling. You can build on your relationship. And then from time to time, you may want to engage in a therapy session. In this case, it's a remote therapy. So here's a Zoom call. We've blurred out the real people, but in the Zoom call, the agent appears as a person in the call as well. So you have a 3-way call between the agent, the client, and the therapist. And in this case, the agent's role is really to be comforting and be listening, and also to engage with the client before and after the session and provide support during the session. So we built this using a New Zealand company's product called Cell Machines, called a Virtual Human, and we used Digiflow to build a conversation dialogue, and then Zoom has the ability to have other apps appear in as a virtual camera. One of the most important things, though, is the engagement with the agent around the therapy session. So before you see the real therapist, the agent will appear and talk to you, first of all, and ask you how you're feeling about it, what you want to talk about during the therapy session. And then you have the therapy session where the agent is just quiet listening, and then the therapy session ends and the agent does a debrief with you. How was it? What did the therapist ask you to do? How can I help you do that thing? And the important thing to remember, and I talked yesterday with some people at dinner, I said that in Hong Kong, people might see a therapist twice a year, once every 6 months. So it's almost possible for the client to form a relationship with a therapist because they're only seeing them every 6 months. But they can see this virtual character every day. So the virtual character is like your friend that reminds you that what you should be talking to the therapist about. So we did an evaluation of this with 14 people. We had them use the system over a week. So every day they had to log their mood twice a day. And then at the end of the week, they had a remote psychotherapy session with a real therapist for 25 minutes. And then there was a feedback point as well. And we used a number of subjective surveys around the usability, how they felt about the relationship with the character, and then also some interviews with the people about the character and also about the therapy as well. So here's some qualitative results. First of all, people generally found the system had good usability, which is good to know. They also found that there was a moderate level of emotional activation, which was great. So when people were using the system, they weren't getting upset or angry by the system itself. And they felt that they rated their relationship with the agent very positively. Perhaps a more interesting thing was that as people started using the technology over that week, it evolved from being a task they did every day to building trust with the agent. So when people started using the technology, they typically used it for about 2 or 3 minutes in the first days. By the end of the week, each of the sessions with the agent were going to about 5 or 6 minutes, and they felt they could trust this character even though they've only been using it for a week. And then, of course, once they'd used that for a week, then they joined the therapy session and the character came with them as well. They felt that interacting with the agent before and after the therapy helped reduce their anxiety. Oh, and there's a quote there, actually, I was going to mention, sorry. The person said later on, I could share with her without any burden because I felt I'd become very familiar with her and I knew she would judge me she wouldn't judge me under any circumstances. So that's how somebody felt about the agent after using it for about a week. And so, yeah, so they felt the agent helped reduce anxiety during the therapy session, and it also helped them process the therapy after the session as well. But there were some limitations. They wanted a more human-like interaction and have the agent provide more empathic responses and have better dialogue as well. The dialogue we put in was a kind of a rule-based dialogue that wasn't as open as an LM system. The other interesting thing was that people evolved, and some people thought the agent was like a friend, and some people thought it was more like a tool. So we had out of those 14, 9 viewed Jodie as a friend or a companion, and 5 as an assistant or as a tool. And you can see on the quotes there, she's more like a helpful help that's designed specifically for therapy. And I like the one at the top there. Seeing Jodie there made me feel like I wasn't alone in the waiting space. So you can, for many people, seeing the therapist for the first time by themselves is a very scary experience. But when they join the Zoom call and they see the familiar character on the call, then they can be relaxed and they can start engaging in therapy more often. So some of the lessons we've learned from that is that the virtual supporters can provide meaningful benefits. There's some expectations that virtual supporters will parallel the relationship we have with real people. The continuous presence and the continuous availability of the agent helps build a relational anchor. The therapist felt that Jodie was performing appropriately. She was present in the call, but not prominent, and she didn't talk at all, and so she let the therapist do their thing. But there's still a need to maintain those boundaries, and there are a lot of technology challenges we have to overcome as well. And the next step, so the example I've just showed you has Jodie in the therapy session, but Jodie doesn't recognize the person's emotional state. So we're doing some other work in our lab about how we can combine information from heart rate and EDA and other things to recognize emotional state and then have an agent in a meeting that's emotionally aware. And as you start getting stressed, the agent might say something or respond in some ways. And I won't show you the video for that because I'm running out of time. But I just had 2 more things to talk about. So first of all, the other thing which is really interesting about how you can use these AI agents is in a training scenario. And this is a project we're doing with the University of Queensland. And in this case, we're trying to look at how you can use intelligent characters for grief training. So currently with grief training, people will oftentimes role play or they'll visualize tasks. but those aren't as effective as experiencing or that experience of having a real client. So you can put conversational characters into VR and provide them that with experience. You can reproduce the emotional pressure of talking to a real person. You can provide a controlled training environment and provide a very strong sense of presence. So here's an example of that. In this case, is a virtual character, and unlike Jody, this virtual character is connected up to an LLM, so you can ask whatever you like. And in this case, the character has lost, their son has died. So she's really upset because her son's died. And then you, as the therapist, have to help her.
You can start talking to Hannah by pressing the B button on your right-hand controller.
Then now you're in this
scenario. Go ahead and say something to her when you are ready.
How are you doing?
I'm here. I just don't know what to say. Some days feel heavy. Some days I just miss Thomas so much.
So Hannah's really upset because her son Thomas has died. And then you have to provide some grief counselling.
It hurts to even look at it.
And so you may not know what to do, so the system provides a prompt, and you'll see on the right-hand side a prompt coming up saying this might be something you might want to say. So you don't want to say, try saying, you know, your feelings are completely valid, grief has no timeline.
Your feelings are completely valid, grief has no timeline.
So it provides a very active training environment.
You can start.
Okay, so I'm almost out of time and I have too much stuff left to say. So I'll just say a couple of things and then we'll have some time for questions. So I've shown you some examples of empathic computing. Now, there's one very big caveat I should have said at the beginning. None of what I've shown you has been validated yet in a clinical setting. So it's very interesting, but we don't know for sure that it works. And there's interesting things happening in the future. So you can see this evolution from engaging with AI, from voice managed chatbots to photorealistic. Now we're at digital humans, and we're at the point now of being able to build these empathic agents. And these empathic mixed reality agents combine those elements of empathic computing with agent technology as well. One of the things we've done is provide these agents also with a sense of touch as well. And so this is an example of a character we built, and we built this little vibrator board and put it on your wrist. And then when the character talks to you and you're feeling upset, the virtual character can reach out and touch your wrist, and you'll feel a slight patting on your wrist from this augmented reality character. So I'll just show you the video from this one here. So this is, in this case, they have to do this game, which is kind of stressful.
Hello there, I'm thrilled to embark on this desert survival game with you. We've got quite the adventure ahead, don't we? Among the items scattered on your left, let's start with securing the life-saving necessity that obviously stands out.
So you have to plan with this person what are the best things to use if you're in a plane crash and do survival. You'll arrange them in order, and then he'll talk to you. But at a certain point, he reaches out and says, that's really good. And he taps you on your arm. And in one condition, you'll feel the tap on your arm. In the other condition, you won't feel it because there's no haptic feedback. You'll see that in just a second. So here's just in there.
Hi, Alex. What should I do next?
And now he's tapping.
Consider moving the cosmic mirror down the list for now.
And you'd feel that. So that's one important technology. The last thing I want to mention is that there's a lot of technology trends happening that can be used for this. And one of the most important trends is this here. And these are building VR and AR devices with the sensing technology built into them. So the Galea headset and this headset here, the Galea has 8 EEG channels plus EDA, PPG, EMG, EOG. So you can track a full range of emotions. So if you're in the VR environment, yes, but it's very expensive. You can pay 85,000 Australian dollars for that. So it's very expensive, but there are cheaper on the market. And, you know, when I started doing VR, it was $1 million for a VR system, and now it's your mobile phone. So this is $85,000 now. In 5 years' time, it'll be $2,000 in clinic devices. So with this, of course, you can detect all these unhidden signals. You can detect attention, stress, face expression, arousal, cognitive load, and you can imagine how a virtual character could use that in interesting ways in a mental health setting. I don't have time to talk about this, but in this case, we looked at using that system to measure brain synchrony. It turns out when people are doing a two-person task, if you measure the EEG behavior, sometimes their brains will synchronize and they'll start feeling connected. And so I won't do about that. So just to wrap up, from what I've shown you, you can see there's many research directions. We need to do clinical validation. We need to have ways to do reliable emotion detection, look at ways we can use for remote counseling, how to build characters that stay with you for long periods of time and have memory and you can talk to and use over years. And of course, there's huge privacy and security issues. And I'll talk tomorrow in the workshop about the work we've done on building guardrails in these types of systems. So just to wrap up, we've seen this strong growth in the last couple of years in digital mental health tools, but there are a lot of limitations with current tools. So empathic computing and the technology around that provides new opportunities around capturing and sharing your experiences, collaborating, and especially understanding people's emotional state. And I've shown some early use cases like reactive VR spaces or empathic conversational agents and training, but there are many directions for future research and new devices like I've shown as well. And this isn't my work, this is the work of all my lab and my students. So here's some of the students who've worked on this. If this is interesting for you, we're looking to collaborate with people. So if you want to join us, we have a virtual intern program, so you can stay in your university and you can work with my students on these projects without ever leaving Hong Kong. So come and play with us. And then finally, most of you are academics who want to publish. So it turns out we created a journal called the Empathic Computer Journal, and you can publish in that journal as well. It's a free to publish open access journal right now. So if you'd like to get some papers, you can publish. And if you like these slides, then here's my email address. Please email me, I'll send you all the slides and we can keep the conversation going. So thank you very much for your time. And I don't know if there's time for questions or not, but thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Professor Matt Biddinghurst. It's a very, very wonderful, amazing keynote speech. I think we don't mind we overshoot a bit. It's already late, but we can take one or two burning questions from the floor or on the Zoom. Is there anyone you want to ask the questions? Yes, true. Yeah. So if no, yes.
Oh, that's a long question.
Oh, it's a long question from Professor Mann, Professor David Mann. You mentioned that users interacting with your virtual supporter show the shift from treating it as a task to developing real trust. As you move into sensitive areas like grief training, how do we prevent vulnerable users from becoming overly attached to a virtual agent?
Oh, that's a great question. So I can use my microphone. So I guess the question is, how do you stop attachment or dependence on the agent? So the good thing is that, of course, because you've got an AI system, it can monitor how much it's being used as well. So if I'm calling and talking to Jody, 15 hours a day, then the system should actually say, well, I think I've talked to you enough, Mark. Why don't we take a break for a little while or do something? So it can self-monitor as well. And of course, the same problem happens with attachment with therapists. There's many examples of people inventing fake psychoses just so they can spend time with their therapist because they really like their therapist and they want to spend lots of time with them. So in just the same way as a real therapist can monitor or should monitor and reduce their dependence, we can do the same thing on a virtual virtual character. The other important thing to remember is that Jody isn't supposed to be acting like a therapist, so they can do things that a therapist can't do. So they can say, well, I don't want to talk to you right now because I'm busy or whatever else, and reduce that down. Or they can say, I think you should talk to the therapist about how much time we're spending together and resolve that way as well. So there's a few mechanisms you can do. That's a very good question, though.
Thank you very much. I think time is up now. Professor Matt is stay with us the whole conference until tomorrow. So please feel free to reach him for further questions. Now we are coming to the refreshment coffee break. We will have some refreshment on third floor. And please come back 11:15. We have the next keynote. Thank you very much.